Yeah, that's the name of this channel. That's what this channel is called. It's called Fake Truth. That's what it's it's just the intro though, guys. It's just a quick intro.
Yeah, when you hear that music, that's the end of the intro. That's the end. That's always wait. All right. So it's live. It's the live show. I'm not saying my real name because I don't do that. But I'm here. It's good to talk to you. It's good to. I was about to say it's good to see you, but I can't see you unless you, I don't know, send me like a video chat or a picture or something. I guess you could email me stuff. Nobody's actually done that yet, but yeah, welcome. It's a show about. Well, that's really hard to say, but I show you some images. You know, some from my own personal experience, some just pulled off the internet. And I played the keys, just, you know, to keep it moving along. Something I've always been interested, I guess, now that I realize it. Something I've been interested in my whole life is magic. And music is a really prevalent form of magic, I think. Almost everybody in the world is familiar with this particular form of magic. But it's like alchemy, you know? It's like, it's real magic that most people I think understand and know is real, right? When I play a major chord, you get happy feelings. It makes you feel good. If I play a minor chord, you start to get a little scared. You're like, is there a monster? Is there a demon? Is something bad gonna happen to me? No, it's all just good times. And everything in between, right? And I guess that's what we're trying to do as we get through this life, discover the nuances, you know? Not everything is just happy or sad, white and black. There's a lot of gray space in there. And this image that I got here is obviously no different, right? We're looking at, I guess, a guy looks like he got hurt. He seems to be bleeding, in pain. But he's also in the bathroom. And I have personally noticed that most bathrooms have hexagon tiles as their floor, as their floor tiles. That's just a thing that I've noticed. The hexagons in the bathroom. Now, what's up with that, you may ask? I would ask it myself. I think a lot about this, as I think a lot about basically anything that I'm going to mention on this show. It's a mystery to me. It's a question that I have. So what is it about the hexagon? Well, I mean, we've had a lot of discussion about the hexagon in the show. It's obviously a very diverse, complex symbol. Just like harmonies, right? It depends on how you're using it, in what context, in which way in connection with which other symbols. And something about the bathroom hexagon, right? It's all about fitting into that hive, being part of the larger structure, being part of the team. Ties, of course, back into many other cultures and symbols. One I was reading about recently is the Hospitallers, I guess the military sort of segment of the Knights of Malta slash Rosicrucians, that whole area. They have a bee as their symbol, and well, yeah. What do you want to bet that all ties back in together with the hexagon? But in this particular shot, I guess, well, we're supposed to feel for this guy and what he's going through, and the hexagons play their part in that image. They play a role. I think it's powerful. I think it's real, be it subconsciously done by the creators or consciously. The result, the end effect is the same, and I think that's just the nature of the reality that we're living in. Another sort of bathroom thought that I've often had, right, as we look deeper and deeper into Tartaria and the mud flood and the reset, the change in history, and whispers of how culture and basically humanity at its core was different back then, and how there's not a lot of bathrooms built in to ancient buildings, or even relatively old buildings going back to the 1700s or earlier. A lot of those big sort of Palace or Versailles things, they don't have bathrooms. So was our digestive tract, our nature of consumption, also different back then? And does this tie? Because every time I see the hexagon, it has to do with the group think and the effective pushing and changing of our culture in a certain way, right? And so, if you stick with me for a second, think for a second that, yeah, maybe back in the day, our digestion, the way we went to the bathroom, what we used the bathroom for, was drastically different. And that in order to, right, if there really is some sort of spell or magic effect that has been perpetrated on humanity in order to keep us sort of baser, stuck to our bodies, that maybe having the hexagon in the bathroom constantly is some sort of reinforcement and reiteration of the grand spell that it's been perpetrated on whoever we are. It's hard to say who. Not saying I know that for a fact. I'm just saying maybe, right? A hard maybe on that. Now, this is from Titans. It was a very depressing, drab show, focused mostly on teenage angst. And as we know, that all media is sort of a tool of control and persuasion, while at the same time occasionally being beautiful art. Well, it's no surprise to me personally that a show aimed at teenagers and just sort of the teenage experience in general would be filled with depressive images and ideas and concepts. I do like to binge these series just so you can really sink into their world, but then the effect they have on you is a lot greater, right? These images and ideas and basically the emotions that they've packed into the show, they will follow you throughout the day. They will follow you around no matter how powerful your defenses are, right? Because we're susceptible to that. We're emotional creatures, and right, if we find ourselves for an extended period in the presence of a certain emotion, there's really no chance of you not picking up on any of that, right? I mean, all of us know this from real life. If your spouse or close friend is going through tough times, it's going to be hard to not have that directly affect your emotional state, and then, right, by sort of definition have that affect then your life and change the way you're living your life based on those emotions, right? You might make a decision differently based on that interaction. Now that you're feeling all depressed because your friend lost their job, well, then maybe you're not going to go out and get a drink with your other friends because now you're feeling kind of down. For example, it'll affect your decision tree, your decision making, these emotions that have been passed on to you. And well, I'm sure that effect has been studied ad nauseum because, yeah, it's the same, albeit maybe a little weaker than a direct loving connection that you have with a close person. But television is going to have the same effect on your mind and be able to not directly control your thoughts and ideas and actions, but in this same way steer them in a certain direction. And well, if you see the steering constantly through different shows in different ways, through different headlines and different ways of saying the same message, basically, is what I'm saying. That you will turn the channel, you will look at the news article, but at the root of it, the same emotional state will be hinted at. And yeah, that's just the nature of all of this. It's magnetic. We're easily pulled in certain directions and affected by things in certain ways. And if you know how that all works, then yeah, it can be a very powerful tool. Not saying that the tools themselves are evil or good, right? I don't think there's anything good or evil about music. It's just the harnessing of natural phenomenon. And the more you understand, the better you get at it, the more tools are going to be in your toolbox, the more surgically you're going to be able to shape your ideas and responses to other ideas and criticisms until, well, pretty soon you got a knife you can cut straight to the heart of anything. And as with everything that we look at in culture, right, not everybody is a Mozart or Beethoven of their craft. Some things are a little more shoddily done than others. And obviously the better they're done, the stronger the effect they're going to have. But in this day and age of absolute right requirement of promptness, things have to just continue on this conveyor belt as we consume, it seems, just more and more. An unsatiable appetite for content as we head into this next phase. Well, some things may just be a little heavy-handed, is what I'm trying to say. Now we're looking at some frames from Altered Carbon. The second season just came out on Netflix. A story, well, as old as this whole experience, tying into everything that we seem to talk about constantly, from consciousness transfer to the reshaping of society towards something more controlled and regulated for the betterment of everybody. And that, well, just like with music, that there's sort of an inevitable feeling that we're given about this, that it really is only a matter of time before people are uploading their consciousness to some sort of advanced hard drive that you can then take in and out of bodies and just basically reboot, give it another shot as long as you have the cash for a new body. And how this consumerist idea will be used to transcend death and other ideas. And I think this show reinforces more than most that how important consciousness is, that it is everything. It's the only game in town. The only thing worth fighting over, talking about, working towards, and how, well, yeah, flesh and bone, that'll fall away, but the consciousness remains, and the ability to control and manipulate it is, yeah, that's all there is. That's the only game. It's the only game we're playing. So makes sense that just like with music and chords, certain chords we rely upon, we know they're good, we know they're powerful. It's the same thing here. Hexagons. Well, different shows here. Legends, Altered Carbon. And I'm not going to say it just isn't. It is not a coincidence. This is a tool, a very powerful tool, just like a major or minor chord that when used in the right way will have the desired effect. And like I'm saying, some shows are a little more subtle than others, but this particular season of Altered Carbon is incredibly heavy-handed. I would say there isn't a frame in this show that doesn't have a few core aspects, and the hexagon is one of them. It really is, honestly, front to back, one of their precepts. And again, just because I am constantly confronted in my daily life with my sort of conspiracy overload, and it's again another reason for me to keep doing this show, because if I don't talk about these things out loud, if it just floats around in my head, it ends up leaking out in my daily life. And we are in an era, entering this era of thought crime where, yeah, certain ideas, certain beliefs, certain concepts, if you speak of them in public, it's almost as dangerous as, I don't know, shouting fire in a crowded theater, or being blatantly racist or sexist, or any of these other sort of already taboo things, right? You can't talk about inciting violence or hurting other people or defaming them for who they are. Well, a bunch of other things are going on that list these days, such as, discussing distrust in institutions, discussing magical concepts, ideas that are paranormal, things like UFOs or cover-ups, right? I think we all know what goes in the truth basket these days, but how I'm noticing it progress more and more, that people are less and less, unless you already have sort of started on your journey towards initiation, people are less and less willing to have a conversation with you about something that they decide is fringe and not worthy of discussion, right? Talking about things like the nature of our environment, symbolic language, all of this stuff that I think I'm deeply passionate about and I find fascinating, and like I keep saying, really the only game in town, the only thing really worth looking into, and seems to be like the people that are in the know, that have a little more power than your average person, seems to me like that's all they're interested in as well, which makes me want to look into it even more, right? Because if you have all the money in the world, if you have all the influence you could possibly ever buy, and you're spending all your time with this kind of stuff, Kabbalah, sacred knowledge, symbolism, numerology, well then there's got to be something there. There's got to be something worth spending time on and looking into. And so I don't think it's going to be hard for me to stop. It's call it a compulsion and addiction at this point, but I find it hard to control myself. And it's that's all I'm trying to say right now here, is that it's becoming, maybe slowly, but that's how they boil the frog. But it is becoming dangerous nonetheless to voice any opinion about these topics, to even bring them up in casual conversation is becoming dangerous for your reputation. I'm not saying I'm scared for my life or anything like that, but talking about this stuff can have a genuinely negative impact on your future. And that's a scary thing to think about, I think, because in the end these are beliefs, right? Just like any other religion that is more standardized. And that's what I sort of liken it to, that I'm not allowed to talk about numerology in public these days. I can't help but compare that to some sort of religious prosecution, and how those phases have sort of rippled through culture and society all throughout the ages. All right, we're getting a little philosophical here. Let's try to move through these images real quick. I've been showing this one for a second. I hope you did see the hexagon. They really are in every single frame, and I managed to catch a frame or two without the proper coloring, but almost every single frame in this show as well has the red and the blue. Yet another one of our favorite things, and well, another shower thought I guess I've been having lately is that even when I'm out in the real world, wherever my eye looks, I seem to be catching the red and the blue from everything from my audio interfaces to the regions of these clips on my screen. It's the red and the blue. And that may be something about this simulation, this matrix that we're in, right? There's a couple glitches in the simulation, a couple things that give it away. And maybe one of it is the red and the blue, that something, whatever they have sort of covering our eyeballs, if we're glued into some, it's hard to say, right? One of those matrix pods, or just sort of floating in time and space with some VR goggles on or something, but that the red and the blue popping up everywhere, it's something that betrays this simulation, and that, right, that they can't project a stable 3D immersive tactile experience without having those colors in the image at all times, and that this is right. It's a glitch in this edition of the simulation. Hopefully they're trying to find ways of solving this in the next patch, but at least for now we're stuck with red and blue in every single frame. Let's see if I can pull it out here. Those green lights turn back to the red. And I really could have done a lot more in this show, but it's oppressive. It's almost annoying at a certain point. It's so distracting from the story and the characters. This constant in this particular show, and again, I know this is like colorists color correcting people's bread and butter. You obviously spend a lot of time shaping the film look and making sure all of the frames and images fit into the universe that they have created called Altered Carbon. But the particular red and blue that they picked for this show are just, it's sort of neon, blaringly powerful. And again, that does tie into the neon sort of film noir aspect of this whole show. But at the same time, it is aggressive. It is apparent in every single frame. And at this point, I honestly don't see how you could not notice it. It's aggressive. It's aggressive. And just to, right, let's just pull a quick plot. I should probably get into this show a little bit more later at some point. But yeah, what they end up doing is, capturing some dissidents. They put them on rockets and shoot them into the sky as sort of a ritual sacrifice. Call it what you will. But that's what they do. They strap them, I think they have 5 of them, and they strap them to these, what do you want to guess, red and blue rockets that they send up into the sky. and they call this angel fire. There's a lot of interesting symbolism here, but in the particular planet that they're finding themselves on, it is well, they have this weird grid up above in the upper atmosphere. And again, I think as with all this kind of high tech sci-fi stuff, this is a nod to a possible technology or something that is already surrounding our planet and available to the higher ups, right? And so again, with the hexagons, although what the images that we see, we don't really get a clear image here, but that they're almost like a molecular structure. We see hexagons, but we see it's almost like yeah, from some chemistry textbook or something. You see these connecting lines, and right, as with all this hexagony, hive mindy stuff, it is the overarching grid that is keeping everybody under control and under watch and available for punishment. Because what do we see? The rockets get sent up there. The humans are sacrificed, and then what do we see? There's this grid, and this reminds me of Geostorm actually. This network of sort of high-powered laser beams that are up in the low Earth orbit and all networked together, creating this sort of actual control grid that is surrounding the planet. And here we see, well, I mean, honestly, like it's so aggressive. I don't want to. I hate to keep just rubbing it in, but oh my God, it's a hexagon in the sky that is part of this control grid, and that's what I'm saying in the show. It is crazy aggressive. Look at this still for a second, right? We have the hexagon, the outer structure hexagon that is whatever this module is, right? Then we have what the material that it's made out of. This is hexagonal in structure as well. The actual grid. Then we have a hexagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got 6 hexagons with an internal hexagon that are forming the shape of a larger hexagon. That's what I'm saying. It's just aggressively hexagonal, but the effect is felt, right? And what do we see in this show? This low Earth orbit hexagonal object is able to send a giant directed energy weapon beam laser, which again we're told over and over again that in this world, none of this technology is real. It doesn't exist, and not something that any government is capable of doing or is doing currently or has done in the past. Nobody has directed energy weapons in low Earth orbit, and none of them are using those weapons to, say, I don't know, start fires or kill dissidents or, I don't know, set the Notre Dame on fire. None of that's actually happening, even though it's all systematically laid out here in these images. But they don't start forest fires. They don't kill any dissidents. They just use this laser beam to ignite these human sacrifices into a beautiful display of fireworks. This is, I guess, sort of like this made-up planet's idea of Independence Day. And yeah, everybody cheers, they celebrate, they appreciate it, and yeah, that's why I took the sequence of events, because I think that's a very powerful sequence of events there, and something we could draw a lot of parallels to ideas that we have about what's happening in our reality. There's something there, right? The human sacrifice, the yeah, and then the celebration that it's caused in the people, that just all of this is interconnected, interrelated. And now look what I did there. I just burned through the whole show with that symbolic discussion. But I guess, why fight it at this point? If we get on a trip, then let's just get on a trip, Now I do want to, right, because all of this, I was just listening to this fantastic episode if you haven't checked out the higher side chats, then yeah, you really basically have to. If you're watching my channel, then yeah, I, I I never want to say like stop watching this video and go watch something else, but higher side chats, I'm telling you. And Michael Wan was on this last episode and discussing a lot of this stuff that we're talking about here. This synchro mysticism, the idea that things out there in our reality, especially when they're primed and charged and put in the public eye, have this basically inexplicable connections to each other, and that the deeper you dig into things, the more you'll find. And this guy Michael Wan is really sort of an expert at digging these things out and finding the connections, and yeah, discusses a lot of connections between Joe Biden and Kobe, and all the meanings behind their names and the numbers, and how a lot of it just links up in the craziest ways. And I really do like his take on it, that yeah, sure, a bunch of it is probably conscious ritual magic by certain elite groups that really know the nature of our reality and have been studying it for thousands of years and have been distorting and affecting it to their gains for generations at this point. But then another large portion of it is really just too heavy. It's too in depth. It's too layered to be consciously controlled by anybody. That it just is. And that these powerful groups, these guys that are in charge, if they're not creating these concepts, just like nobody's creating music. Right? People make music, but nobody created the basic principles of, right? It goes much deeper than that. Those are basic concepts, just like symbols, just like any of these things. And all these powerful groups and people are doing are tapping into those ideas, doing their best to manipulate them, but they're not creating the effects in the first place. And I think this whole constellation of ideas and topics, it's so worth looking into if you want to have a better grip on your life and reality in general. Well, that's what you got to do. Now, okay, damn dog. We hit that 33 mark already. We hit it hard. I really want to get into just some of the news things that I briefly mentioned here before I move along in my life. Now, I haven't actually watched the clip, but I've been staring at this man's face for decades at this point, as I'm sure many of you have as well. This is big news these days, at least today, right? Over 250,000 hits on this article alone. Chris Matthews is out at MSNBC. It's hard to tell if it was planned or not, but he started that episode and was like, "Fuck it, I'm out, bro, over it." And they had to get whatever the other guy, Chris Kornacki, on there real quick, and he sort of filled out the rest of the episode. But this man is done, and I would look at this also as a great symbol for the changing in culture and the patriarchy, right? He's been on the air for quite some time. He goes all the way back to, yeah, the earlier Bush years. This Mr. Matthews has been a certain type of voice on television for quite some time that I think a lot, right? They call him a centrist. It really is definitely some aggressive language that he tends to use, but him quitting, especially today of all days, I find very symbolic and hard to rule out the esoteric layers behind this and the effects, just like with everything that we're talking about, that this will have on you, your opinions, your ideas about everything, really. At any rate, he's done. He's out. And that is the end of the Chris Matthews era, right? And that's just how this works. He is gone in order to make room for somebody else that is going to push you in a different direction, in a direction that Chris Matthews couldn't push you anymore. He pushed enough people into that direction, and well, I guess not that that battle's been won, but that particular battle, is over. Now, I thought this was just mildly interesting as it is 2020, and I still feel that alien feeling that there really is going to be some sort of. I mean, there's been disclosures already, but something a little more hard hitting that gets talked about more centrally, right? Because a lot of this stuff has been sort of soft disclosed and is being discussed. Just missed my bumper. I missed that bumper. I'm gonna have to try it again. But this is important, right? Scientists claimed to have found the first known extraterrestrial protein in a meteorite. I guess they already had this rock 30 years ago, so that's the question why they didn't check this out before. They're saying they used a new analysis technique, but, right, what do you want to bet? It's all fake. That none of the moon rocks are actually from the moon, that the moon is plasma, and that, well, if I'm just saying if that was the case, then yeah, then you would have a really great system for rolling this all out, and you would obviously need to set up a timeline for when that meteorite's going to get found, and then when the protein is going to be identified. Oh, well, now we're going to use this technique on the other meteorites. I guess we just found one that just landed. What about, oh, well, here comes one from an Oumuamua interstellar-like object. Oh, and we did this new analysis technique, and we found blank, and this proves blank, right? And it's all sort of moving you on to the next stage. And well, I'm honestly very curious what the next stage is of the whole alien experience. My gut feeling is on it all being another sort of grand layer of deception, because that's how. Well, if things are built on a deception, it's a lot easier to control and continue lying, because the whole thing is built out of a lie. Therefore, right, your signals are already up that there's something fishy. So when the individual details are shoddily put together and faked in certain ways, you lump that in with the general feeling of the whole thing being faked, and don't necessarily accuse that particular person or article or event as being fabricated, because, well, it's the residual. It's like I'm saying, everything affects everything else, including me affecting you, and well, it's not to be underestimated, those effects. And just as right, it's all in the same conceptual bag. And here's a heavily shared article. Is that really true 2,000 times? I guess been shared a lot. And this just points me towards, well, this whole thing being heavily coordinated. How else could it not be? That obviously Joe Biden is a flawed candidate, just the same way that Hillary was, has a lot of skeletons in his closet, has some questionable behavior, and is kind of old and not super good on the mic anymore. So, right, if you're trying to get somebody like that to win, you're going to want to have a lot of images of him everywhere, a lot of talk about him. and obviously the right images, right, of him being sort of windswept and awesome and all of the great experience that he's had. But you're definitely going to not want to give that guy too much screen time of him live talking, because then people will notice that, oh man, he is like barely home anymore. I think he drank too much child blood and his brain has been addled because he doesn't seem to be able to remember which state he's in and which election he's going for. So, okay, so if that was the case, then you would want to fill the field with a bunch of similar feeling, right? Sort of Joe Biden adjacent people that can do all the talking and spreading of the ideas, but without Joe Biden actually doing any of that. Because if he had been doing that this whole time alone, he would be kind of tired, and there would be a bunch of footage of more gaffes and other tough things happening to him. But that's not how that went down. We've been focused mostly this whole primary on people like Pete Buttigieg, Gogajage, and Klobuchar, and everybody else that has been sort of sucking the air out of the room and keeping it away from Bernie Sanders, basically. But now that they managed to properly fix the election for Joe in that most recent state, the writing's on the wall. They're going to get everybody out of there, and Joe's going to finally get some time to talk. Now in this golden hour, this final stage where it's basically too late to pick anybody else or even talk about anybody else. And yeah, he may make some mistakes now on these last couple speeches, but they've made it so the writing is on the wall. And I mean, I guess I'm not part of Pete Buttigieg's campaign, so I can't, I guess, say for sure guaranteed that, oh yeah, he called up Joe Biden and they coordinated the whole thing and then he quit. But that's definitely what it's reading like. And just like with Chris Matthews backing down and heading out, I guess Pete Buttigieg has given the message that he needed to give, right? About everything the CIA taught him to say, all of the concepts from sexuality to healthcare and everything else, right? He was able to seed those ideas properly into the culture, and now that he's served his purpose, he will be stepping back into the background, and has obviously played his part very well. And I expect this guy to show up in the future as we move forward into, yes, hard to say, but new eras. But this guy has made a good impression on a lot of people, and well, I see him as being very useful in the future. And if you want to remain useful and be an effective foot soldier, then you will get the fuck out of the way when the boss tells you to. And that's how I see it. I don't know how you could see it any other way. I honestly would be confused if you saw it a different way. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. And yes, of course. What's up, Scott Rogers? It's good to see you, man. If you haven't seen the creepy as F video of Joe Biden touching literally every small child's hair that he has ever come in contact with, then I would advise you, yeah, definitely watch that video of Joe Biden creeping on children, because that's a true fact that has been heavily documented over and over again. Dude is into kids. Dude's into kids. And that's the guy we want to make president. And I don't think it's an accident that that information is readily available, and people, it's like a cognitive dissonance. They look away. They don't see it. They don't think about it. They just, yeah, not that it's not fake news, just that it's irrelevant, not important. And that seems crazy to me, just saying that out loud, but that's how good the magic is. That's how powerful these spells are. And why it's so dangerous for us to break them, to step out of them. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it. Just I'll make that statement again. That yeah, CIA, if you're listening, just can you give me if you're really annoyed with me, if you're gonna try to take me out or ruin my life in some way, just maybe give me a more direct sign than you have been giving me with the you know the weird glitches and all that kind of stuff. Maybe give me a more direct sign, and I'll be like, okay, I get it. I get it, and I will come on the show and say, well, some people contacted me and they made a pretty compelling argument, and I'm gonna not do the show anymore. So sorry, guys. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I'm gonna still keep going until I get that message from you guys, though, because like I say, I think it's amusing. I think it's amusing. So now, just as a parting gift here from me to you, the Treasury Advisor says in London or UK, I guess, farming and fisheries are not important. Our food system as we know it seems to be collapsing before our very eyes. The coronavirus and many of the other sort of global events seem to be direct cover for what is actually happening in our world, and the combination of tense political situations, horrible harvests from the past couple years, and the looming grand solar minimum. Yeah, combine that with the fear that's happening in China, and well, we're having huge pork shortages, huge grain shortages, dry bean shortages. It's up and down the board. Almost everything that we eat and use on a daily basis is threatening huge shortages or just complete losses of the entire crop. And if harvests don't go incredibly well this year, then it's the kind of thing that they won't be able to shield the consumer from anymore. These prices will start to rise on the very basic necessities, or just will simply not even be available anymore. Right? And we're talking about in civilized places, in first world countries, not being able to buy a steak, not being able to get kidney beans, not being able to get any of it, maybe for weeks or months on end. And how that's going to affect our culture and change the way we live, because we've been almost a couple generations now without having to feel that, without having to deal with food shortages. And it's obviously coming. It's if you look into the news, I always recommend Ice Age Farmer for this kind of info, because he does fantastic research about it. But there seems to be just a huge portion of willful ignorance when it comes to reporting about this topic. And again, just doesn't seem to be possible without directed coordination on that front. But suffice it to say that, yeah, food in general seems to be in trouble, which makes it even more alarming, scary, terrifying, strange to hear the chair that's in charge of watching all of this is heard saying, right, said that the food sector was not critically important to the country's economy, and that agriculture and fisheries certainly isn't. That this is something that I guess they're preparing to cut out, the idea of everybody farming everywhere all over the world. That I don't know, maybe they have some sort of next level solution. We're going to see the Hegelian dialectic in action here. This whole food crisis coronavirus thing really is shaping up to be this generation's 9/11, but it's a lot. It's like in slow motion almost, because there's so many moving parts. But all of this is going to push us into new mindsets, into new ways of thinking that maybe we didn't want to be in. And honestly, I don't know what we can do to stop it, because, well, they got us good. If we can't eat, then yeah, things fall apart pretty quickly after that. You need food to do stuff. you need that food if you want to do cool stuff. Like make YouTube videos and I don't know, children, whatever else you want to make. Hexagon pictures. Anyways, these are some other hexagons that I prepared for you and never showed. It really is just, it's an endless stream. I encourage you to go check out your own hexagons. And I'm probably gonna step off here at this point. We've been we almost got an hour here. It's like I got a message from Twitch, Mr. What's your name? Oofmaster. Nice name. Oofmaster says, "Hello, how's the stream?" I say pretty good, Oofmaster. Sup? Pretty good. That's all I got. That's all I got. I'm gonna step off, but I hope you have a good day. If you were paying attention, I super appreciate that. If you like the show, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Hit that like button. Maybe subscribe even. Check me out on a different platform, because videos like this aren't definitely not going to get recommended anytime soon. They really nailed the algorithm at this point. We're in that blacklisted section. If you are hearing this, you are a borderline content consumer.
Borderline content. That's right. How does it feel to be blacklisted and put into a box like you're dangerous? How's it feel?
Damn dog. I really am gonna get out of here. But Oofmaster, I appreciate your comments. Oofmaster's mentioning, what do you think of the show Manifest? It's definitely a show I find difficult to watch because it's so soapy and the acting is really rough. But the concepts in it are critical. And maybe I will get into Manifest in a future episode, because critical info being dropped in there, even with all the bad acting. The idea of premonition and psychic connection between people is obviously true and real, and another reason why they would put it in a show and fictionalize it, to make you feel like you don't have psychic powers. But obviously we all do. We're all incredibly powerful consciousness beings, and, well, Oofmaster, if I was better at this, I could literally come over to your house right now with my mind and say what's up. I really like that poster on your wall. It's a nice touch, Oofmaster. And it's nice to be here in your weird little room. Maybe you should clean up, actually, sometime. When's the last time you did laundry, bro?
Damn dog, do your laundry. Damn dog. Damn dog.
All right, no, I'm serious. It's over. This is the end of the show. That was the last one. That was the last one. Okay, he's saying he doesn't have posters. That's what I'm saying. I got to get better at my remote viewing. I'm not. Yeah. It's getting. I'm working on it. Catch you on the flip side, bros.